Right now, as you're watching this video, there's a 1 in 200 chance that you're a direct descendant of Genghis Khan. That means roughly 16 million people alive today carry his genetic signature. But here's the thing. That's probably the least surprising part of his legacy. Because the Mongol Empire didn't just conquer the largest land empire in human history. It accidentally created the modern world. And I do mean accidentally. Genghis Khan died in 1227 with a clear vision: unite the Mongol tribes, crush his enemies, and secure pasture land for his people. What he got instead was religious freedom spreading across Eurasia, the first global trade network, paper money becoming standard currency. And oh yeah, he briefly reversed climate change by killing so many people that forests regrew and absorbed carbon from the atmosphere. None of that was the plan. So today, we're exploring how a nomadic warrior who couldn't read or write became the accidental architect of globalization. This is the story of history's most surprising empire. The conqueror who didn't want an empire. Let's start with what Genghis Khan actually wanted. Born as Temüjin around 1162, he grew up in a brutal world where Mongol tribes constantly fought each other. His father was poisoned when he was 9. His family was abandoned by their clan. He was enslaved, escaped, and clawed his way to power through a combination of military genius and strategic alliances. By 1206, he'd unified the Mongol tribes and taken the title Genghis Khan, which roughly means universal ruler. But here's what's interesting. He wasn't trying to build a civilization. He was trying to protect one way of life, the nomadic pastoral existence of the Mongol people. The conquests started almost defensively. Neighboring kingdoms kept raiding Mongol territory or refusing trade. So Genghis Khan responded with overwhelming force. The problem, he was too good at it. His military innovations were revolutionary. He organized armies by units of 10, used superior cavalry tactics, employed psychological warfare, and promoted based on merit rather than nobility. When he sent envoys to the Khwarazmian Empire to establish trade relations, and they were murdered, he didn't just retaliate. He erased the Khwarazmian Empire from the map. Victory after victory followed. Northern China, Central Asia, Persia. Each conquest created new borders to defend, new enemies to subdue, and before anyone quite realized it, including Genghis Khan himself, there was an empire stretching from Korea to Eastern Europe. But the real accident? What came after? The aftermath. Nobody planned. Genghis Khan died in 1227, probably from injuries sustained falling from a horse. His sons and grandsons continued the expansion, but they did something their father never imagined. They settled down and started actually administering this massive territory. And here's where it gets fascinating. The Mongols were about 1 million people, trying to control an empire of over 100 million. They had no choice but to adopt administrative systems from the people they conquered. They borrowed Chinese bureaucracy, Persian record-keeping, and absorbed scholars, engineers, and administrators from every culture they encountered. The result? The Pax Mongolica, the Mongol Peace. For about a century, from roughly 1250 to 1350, you could travel from Venice to Beijing on Mongol-protected trade routes with remarkable safety. This wasn't because the Mongols were peaceful, it's because they ruthlessly eliminated bandits and enforced security across their territory to facilitate tax collection. But this security had unintended consequences that changed world history. Paper money, which had existed in China, spread west and eventually became the standard for global trade. The printing press, gunpowder, the compass, all moved along Mongol routes. Ideas about mathematics, astronomy, and medicine flowed in both directions. Marco Polo's journey to China? Only possible because of Mongol infrastructure. Even more surprising, religious tolerance became policy. Genghis Khan, a shamanist, exempted all religious leaders from taxes. His court included Christians, Muslims, Buddhists and Taoists debating theology. Why? Not because he was philosophically committed to pluralism, but because he recognized that persecuting religions caused rebellions, which were expensive and annoying. This pragmatic tolerance created an environment where ideas mixed like never before. Persian scholars worked alongside Chinese engineers. Muslim mathematicians collaborated with Buddhist astronomers. The intellectual cross-pollination of the Mongol Empire laid groundwork for the Renaissance in Europe and scientific advancement across Asia. None of this was in the original plan. Genghis Khan wanted good grassland for horses, not to become the godfather of globalization. The darkest accident. Now we need to talk about the elephant in the room, the death toll. Estimates vary, but the Mongol conquests likely killed between 30 and 40 million people, roughly 11% of the world's population at the time. Cities that resisted were destroyed so thoroughly that some never recovered. The irrigation systems in Persia were wrecked so badly that the region's agriculture didn't fully recover for centuries. This level of destruction was so severe that it had a measurable environmental impact. A recent study suggested that the deaths and depopulation allowed forests to regrow on abandoned farmland, pulling enough carbon dioxide from the atmosphere to slightly cool the planet. It's the only time in recorded history that mass death temporarily reversed climate change. Let me be clear, this isn't a good thing. It's a horrifying testament to the scale of devastation. But it illustrates just how dramatically the Mongol Empire reshaped the world, in ways nobody at the time could have predicted or intended. There's another dark accident, the spread of the Black Death. The interconnected trade networks the Mongols created meant that when plague broke out in Central Asia in the 1330s, it traveled along those same routes to Europe, killing a third of the population. The Mongols didn't cause the plague, but their empire's infrastructure accidentally created the perfect conditions for a pandemic. The legacy we are living. So, what does all this mean for us today? First, there's that genetic legacy. The 16 million descendants I mentioned earlier exist because Genghis Khan and his male relatives had so many children across such a vast territory. It's a reminder that the empire's impact was literally written into human DNA. But the cultural legacy is even more profound. The Mongol Empire demonstrated that transcontinental empires could exist, that diverse peoples could be administered under one system, and that trade could connect vastly different civilizations. When the Mongol Empire collapsed in the 14th and 15th centuries, the European age of exploration partly aimed to recreate those lost trade connections. Columbus was literally trying to reach China because he knew the riches that Mongol-era trade had brought. Modern concepts of religious tolerance, merit-based promotion, and international law all have threads connecting back to Mongol administrative practices. The idea that empires should facilitate rather than prevent trade. That became standard because the Mongols proved how profitable it could be. Even the way we think about globalization today, with its mix of cultural exchange, economic integration, and unintended consequences, mirrors the Mongol experience. They created the first truly global system, and like modern globalization, it brought both opportunity and catastrophe, innovation and destruction. So here's the paradox of Genghis Khan's empire. The things he actually intended, like securing territory for Mongol pastoralism, mostly failed. The Mongols eventually settled down, assimilated, or were absorbed into other cultures. Within a few generations, his descendants ruled over sedentary empires that looked nothing like the nomadic society he fought to preserve. But the things he never planned, global trade networks, cultural exchange, religious tolerance as policy, the acceleration of technology transfer, those became his most enduring legacy. The next time you use paper money, the next time you benefit from an idea that crossed cultures, the next time you see religious diversity treated as strength rather than weakness, you're experiencing echoes of an empire that nobody, including its founder, ever meant to build. History's greatest empires are often deliberate projects. But history's most transformative empire? That was an accident. If you found this fascinating, hit that like button and subscribe for more surprising stories from history. And let me know in the comments, what other accidental historical events do you think changed the world? I'll see you in the next one.